This year I read 71 books. Let's talk about them. So I vastly underestimated myself when I set my Goodreads goal for 2024. I originally set it for 40 because I knew I had a lot of longer books on my bookshelf and I wanted to read more of the books that I actually own. I actually put myself on a book buying ban for most of the year last year. I thought it'd be fun if we did a speed run of every book I read in 2024. I'm not going to go in depth about any of them. We'll just do title, author, what I rated it, and then after that, I thought it'd be really fun to talk about my top 5 books from 2024 and my bottom 5 books for 2024. Alrighty, so I have my laptop here. Alrighty, for the first book that I read in 2024, it was My Sister the Serial Killer, which I gave 3 stars. After that, I read People We Meet on Vacation, which I gave 4 stars. Then I read King of Pride by Anna Huang, which I gave 4 stars. The Only One Left by Riley Sager, which I gave 5 stars. Then I read It's a Date by Geneva Rose, which I gave 3 stars. After that was King of Greed by Anna Huang, which I gave 4 stars as well. After that was Icebreaker, which I gave 4 stars. And then I read Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, which was a 5-star read, as was Fourth Wing, which I read after that. After that, I read Protecting What's Mine by Lucy Score, which I gave 4 stars. Following that, I read None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, which I gave 3 stars. After that, I read both Kiss and Don't Tell and Those Three Little Words by Megan Quinn. Both I gave 4 stars. Following that was The Woman in the Window by AJ Finn, which I gave 4 stars. That one was actually loaned to me by a coworker, and that was a good one. After that, I read Twisted Games by Anna Huang, which was 4 stars, followed by Right Man, Right Time by Megan Quinn, which was also 4 stars. Check in Mate by Allie Hazelwood, which I gave 4 stars. I'm now second guessing on if I am too nice of a rater because I've given a lot of books 4 stars last year. After that, I read He's Not My Type by Megan Quinn, which I gave 4 stars. The Fine Print, which was by Lauren Asher, which I gave 2 stars. After that was a 5-star read, Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. After that was the first book I've ever read by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I gave that one 4 stars. That was a super cute novella. After that was Crave by Tracy Wolff, which I gave 3 stars. And then we had Beach Read, which I gave 4 stars by Emily Henry. Followed by that was the first book that I've read by Abby Jimenez, which I gave 5 stars. Absolutely loved that book. And then I read You Shouldn't Have Come Here, which was 2 stars, which was a bit of a letdown after the 5-star read before that. The next one I read after that was one of the ones that I got from a previous Stuff Your Kindle day, so I got it for free, and that was The Grump, the Bride, and the Baby by Haley Shore, and I gave that one 3 stars. After that, I read Meet Me by the Lake by Carly Fortune, which was also a 3-star. I was going through a little bit of a slump here of books. Looks like after that was Mixed Signals by B.K. Borison, also 3 stars. Then I read The Hobbit, which again, such an amazing book, 5 stars. The narration by Andy Serkis. I will never stop singing the praises of that book. Following that was Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher, which I gave 5 stars. I'm really glad that I read that one because I wasn't a big fan of the first one, but I really like the idea of the series, so I'm really glad I kept reading because I really liked that one. This next one I read, Only Love Can Hurt Like This. I don't think I've ever seen anyone post about this book online. I thought it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. I got it at Costco a couple years ago, and I finally got around to reading it last year. After that was The Rule Book by Sarah Adams, 5 stars. I just love Sarah Adams. The first book in this series, The Cheat Sheet, was actually the first book that I've ever read by Sarah Adams. Then I read The Teacher by Frida McFadden. I gave that one 4 stars, but it was kind of a begrudgingly 4 stars. Like, I really liked the book. It was a really good twist, but I didn't like the book at the same time. So, after that was Things We Hide from the Light, which was also 5 stars by Lucy Score. I just love that entire series. I still don't know how to pronounce the series. I think it's called Knock 'Em Out. That's how I've said it in my head. If it's right, let me know. If it's wrong, don't let me know. After that was Twisted Hate by Anna Huang, which I gave 3 stars. Then I read The 7 Year Slip. A coworker of mine told me that this was really good, by Ashley Poston. It's the only book I've ever read by her, and I actually really liked it. I wasn't expecting it to make me cry, but it definitely did. 4 stars. After that was Funny Story by Emily Henry, which I gave 4 stars, followed by a bunch of bangers. We had Things We Left Behind, which was the last book in the Knock 'em Out series by Lucy Score. Gave that one 5 stars. And then I started listening to The Fellowship of the Ring, which is the first book in the Lord of the Rings series. Again, narrated by Andy Serkis. So good. 5 stars. Then I read The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. I really liked that one too, and I gave that one 5 stars. Next was the last book in the Twisted series, Twisted Lies, which I gave 4 stars. After that, I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which I gave 4 stars. And then after that, I read First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. That was a really interesting one. I had no idea where that book was going, but it was really good. Gave that one 4 stars. Then I read The Fiction Writer, which was by Jillian Cantor, and that one I gave 4 stars as well. Man, the twist at the end, super, super good. Next was the last book in the Dreamland Billionaire series, Final Offer. Gave this one 5 stars. I think this is my favorite one of the series. It was just so good. The character development in that one, chef's kiss. After that, I read The Last Love Note by Emma Gray. Boy, howdy, was that book sad. I gave that one 4 stars. If you're someone who's dealing with grief, I would recommend you wait to read that one, because that one, it was hard to read at some points. After that, I read One by One by Frida McFadden. That one was spooky. I gave that one 4 stars. After that was This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. I gave 3 stars. I don't know if I plan on continuing reading anything by Carly Fortune. This is the second book that I read by her, and it just wasn't really my favorite. So I think I'm going to hesitate before I pick up any more books by her. After that, I read Love Redesigned, which is the first one in the Lakefront Billionaire series by Lauren Asher. This one, from what I could gather, started pretty shortly after The Final Offer, which is the last book in the Dreamland Billionaire series. So it was kind of fun. You got to see a cameo of a couple people from the previous series, so that one was good. I gave that one 4 stars. After that, I started reading the Salacious Player Club series. I read Praise by Sarah Kate. I gave that one 3 stars. It was okay. And then I finished listening to the second book in the Lord of the Rings series, The Two Towers. Once again, 5 stars. If you get anything from this channel, please listen to the audiobook version of these books narrated by Andy Serkis, because they are so good. They're super long, but they're amazing, and you will not regret it. After that, I read The Last Party by Claire McIntosh. This was actually one of the first books that I ever got from Book of the Month, like 3 years ago, and I just read it last year, but it was actually really good. It was fun. As someone who lives in America, I tend to read a lot of books that take place in America, and this one did not, so that was kind of fun. I gave that one 4 stars. And then we had book 2 and 3 in the Salacious Players Club series, Eyes on Me and Give Me More, both of them 3 stars. And then I read She Started It by, I believe it's pronounced Sean Gilbert. This one was really good. This is the first thriller that I have ever guessed what the twist at the end was, and I was very proud of myself for that. And I gave that one 4 stars. It was really good. Then I read Slammed by Colleen Hoover. I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. And then I read Mercy and Highest Bidder, both by Sarah Kate. This is book 4 and 5 in the Salacious Player Club series. 3 stars for Mercy, 2 stars for Highest Bidder. And then I read The Bodyguard by Catherine Centers. First book I've ever read by her. I gave that one 3 stars. It was good. A Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez is what I read next. I gave that one 5 stars. Such a good book. I accidentally read the second book before I read this one because I didn't realize they were part of a series. So I backtracked and read this one before reading the third one, which I eventually will read. So good. I want to read everything Abby Jimenez has ever read because I just love her writing. And then I finally read the last book in the Salacious Player Club series. I gave that one 2 stars. I was not really a big fan of that series, but I had purchased the entire series, so I was forcing myself to read them. I will be donating those books. Then I read Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. I gave that one 4 stars. Super cute. I don't think I'd ever read a cowboy romance before. That one was really cute. After that was The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. I gave the one 2 stars. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite. And then I started reading the Windy City series. This one was really fun. I feel like a lot of sports romances, it tends to focus on one team, and then all the books in that series will be about other members on the team. But for this one, it's all about Chicago. So the first one, it's a hockey romance. But then the second one, The Right Move, is about basketball. The main character, he's a basketball player. And then the third book, he's a baseball player. So that was kind of cool. For both Mile High and The Right Move, I gave 4 stars. Then I finished listening to Wildfire by Hannah Grace. That's the second book in the Icebreaker series. I gave that one 3 stars. It was okay. And then I read Caught Up, which is that third book in the Windy City series. Gave that one 4 stars. Then I read Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. I'd heard a lot of good things about Kennedy Ryan. I just had never read any of her books, but I actually really, really liked this one. It was a little slow at first. I was like, I don't think I like this. But then about halfway, I was totally sucked in. Gave that one 4 stars. Butcher and Blackbird was interesting. I gave it 1 star. And then I finished listening to Daydream by Hannah Grace, which is the third book in the Icebreaker series and is actually my absolute favorite out of all of those. I gave that one 4 stars. And then the last book that I read for the year was Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Lori Gilmore. It's the second book in the Dream Harbor series. So this is the second one to the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. I gave that one 3 stars. It was okay. Alrighty, so starting with my top 5 books of 2024, in no particular order, is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I'm really glad that I picked this one up. I had read one book by him before and I wasn't a big fan, but a coworker of mine was saying that she's read other books by him and she really liked them. So I was like, okay, I'll try again. And I'm really glad I did because this one was so good. One night in 1929, there is a brutal massacre of the Hope family. Both the mother and father were found stabbed. One of the daughters was found hanging in the mansion, and the only survivor was Lenora, who at the time was a minor. And it's assumed that she was the one who did it because she's the only one who survived. But because of the time and because the family was kind of prestigious, she didn't seem to face any jail time. Fast forward to 1983, and Lenora is now in her 70s. She's had a series of strokes, and so she's no longer able to walk, she's no longer able to talk, and that's how we find our main character, Kit, being employed to be the in-home caregiver for Lenora. Kit is definitely a bit uneasy. She's heard the schoolyard rhymes about the massacre that happened there, and she's even more unsettled when she finds out that the person she's replacing, Lenora's previous caregiver, randomly fled in the middle of the night. But Kit can't help herself when Lenora, using a old typewriter, types out one tantalizing sentence. I want to tell you everything. It wasn't me. So many insane twists. I flew through this in like a day and a half. Super good book. I definitely recommend you go pick it up. Another book I absolutely loved this year was The Hobbit. I talked about that a smidgen earlier in the video, but yeah, I listened to it on Audible and just such a good narration. I will never stop singing the praises of these books. They're just so good. And it was just a really fun listening experience. My partner isn't a big fan of reading, but he loves Lord of the Rings. And so for like 2 hours, he sat with me on the couch and just listened to it as I was crocheting. And it was just such a fun experience. And I just love those books so much. The next book I wanted to talk about was The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. I love Sarah Adams. She was one of the first authors that I started reading when I started getting back into reading. And the predecessor to this book, The Cheat Sheet, is the first book I ever read by her. This one was so funny, so easy to read. We're following Nora, who is a sports agent, and in a mostly male predominant field, she can really feel the pressure riding on her of this first client that she has. This is going to make or break her career. The only problem is this first client that she gets assigned to is her college ex-boyfriend, and things didn't end very well. And Derek's holding a grudge, and he's determined to just make her life a living hell. I'm not usually a big fan of second chance romances, but this one was done really well and just chef's kiss. Super good. I definitely recommend this one as well. One of my favorite authors that I discovered this last year is Abby Jimenez. I read 2 books by her, and I loved both of them. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to talk about the second book in the Part of Your World series, and it's called Yours Truly. I accidentally read this one first because I didn't realize it was part of a series. As someone who struggles with anxiety, it's really nice to see a character who also has anxiety but isn't treated like a freak or a weirdo. In fact, he's a doctor. I'll keep this one short because I've talked about this one on the channel already, but for this book, we're following Brianna, and she's really going through it. Her younger brother's on the transplant list, and he needs a new kidney, and he's running out of time, but no one in their family is a match for him. Meanwhile, she's also dealing with her divorce being finalized, and there's been a promotion that she's been really hoping for at work, but she's pretty sure that it's going to go to the new male doctor, who's now her new arch nemesis. But her opinion of him starts to change when he writes her a letter. The last book I wanted to talk about was one that I actually finished about a week ago, and it is Daydream by Hannah Grace. This is the third book in the Icebreaker series, and I wasn't the biggest fan of the first two, but I really, really liked this one. We're following Henry, who is the captain of the hockey team, and Hallie, who is a student at Maple Hills, and after being dumped by her boyfriend, she is determined to kind of put a stop to her people-pleasing ways and to really start prioritizing herself. I listened to this one on Audible, and I didn't give this one 5 stars because there was some things about it that I didn't like, but I really liked the representation in this one, and so I wanted to include this in my top 5 books for the year because it filled me with warm fuzzies, and it also was really funny too. Alrighty, so now my bottom 5 books of 2024. I do want to preface, these aren't necessarily bad books. They're just ones that for one reason or another, I didn't like them. I don't want to hate on the authors. These just weren't for me. The first book I wanted to talk about was Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. As you previously saw, that is the only book for 2024 that I gave 1 star. I would have DNF'd it if I wasn't reading it for a future video. This book is about 2 serial killers who unalive other serial killers, and they end up falling in love. And that sounded like it could be an interesting concept, but it was just not for me. It was very gory, but then also kind of goofy, which it is supposed to be a dark romantic comedy, which in itself kind of sounds a little funny when you say that. I've seen a lot of people say great things about this book, but it really wasn't for me. I skimmed through most of the book. Again, I would have DNF'd it if it wasn't for a video. I thought the twist at the end didn't really make a lot of sense, so it was one that just wasn't for me. I briefly mentioned this earlier, but surprisingly, The Fine Print was just a book that I really didn't enjoy. I thought that I would. I really wanted to, as someone who loves Disney and has no shame in admitting that I am a Disney adult. I really thought that I would like this series because essentially what it is it is like an alternate universe where imagine like Disneyland and imagine Walt Disney, but he had grandsons, and when he passed away, in order for the grandsons to get their inheritance, they had to complete different tasks. And so there's 3 books, there's 3 grandsons. This first one is the youngest grandson, and I just really didn't like this one. I had a hard time seeing how Zara and Rowan were meant for each other. I just felt like they didn't have a lot of things in common. Zara's a employee of Dreamland, and in any type of company, if you were to say the type of things that Zara was saying about Rowan, you'd be fired immediately. So I'm glad that I kept reading this series because I really loved the second and the third one, but this first one, I just wasn't a big fan. The next book on my bottom 5 list was You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. I wanted to like this book. My all-time favorite thriller was written by the same author, Geneva Rose, which is The Perfect Marriage. And in comparison, this one kind of just fell short for me. I thought the decisions that Grace would make and the way that she acted was really odd. I couldn't understand why she was acting that way. And some of the dialogue felt a little silly, especially some of the like internal monologue that you were reading from the characters didn't make a lot of sense. The twist does make it make a smidgen more sense, but it was just a little bit of a frustrating reading experience for me. This Summer Will Be Different was another book that I wasn't a huge fan of. This one, it's about two best friends who live in Toronto, and every year they go to Prince Edward Island, or PEI, which is where Bridget grew up. Something that Bridget doesn't know is the first time that her and Lucy went to PEI, Lucy accidentally hooked up with Bridget's brother, Felix, without them knowing who the other person was. And so throughout the book, you're seeing flashbacks to previous years when they went to PEI for the summer, as well as flashes to the present where Bridget has fled to Prince Edward Island a week before her wedding and called Lucy, like in tears, begging her to join her there. I personally found this book very frustrating. If I was Lucy, it would have driven me bonkers with how Bridget was refusing to tell Lucy what was upsetting her, what made her flee before the wedding, if the wedding was still happening, and just wanting them to stay at Prince Edward Island longer and longer. It just was really frustrating for me. The reveal for why Felix and Lucy shouldn't be together, I guess it kind of made sense. But yeah, this was just one that I was not a huge fan of, and I think that I just maybe am not a big fan of Carly Fortune's writing, so I don't really think I'll be picking up any other books by her in the future. The last book on my bottom 5 books for 2024 list was The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. This one, it just, again, wasn't really one for me. Cute idea, small town romance, which I do love small town romances, even though I personally would hate to live in a small town. I think they're fun to read about, and so for this one, we're following Jeannie, who after years of working in corporate America, she is looking for a big change. And so the perfect opportunity presents itself when her aunt decides that she's ready to retire, and she gifts her business to Jeannie, which is the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. It's the only coffee shop in this small town, Dream Harbor. And this was another one that I just feel like it felt a little flat. It was very fast-paced, but I had a hard time seeing how Logan and Jeannie were meant for each other. It felt like throughout the book they didn't have a lot of time they spent together, and it was very like an insta-love type of thing, which it felt kind of unrealistic, which, yes, these books are unrealistic, but it just wasn't really for me. And I know that I mentioned it the last time I talked about this book, but it just drove me crazy. The formatting for the dialogue, for the quotation marks, instead of having 2, it was just 1. And in the previous video where I talked about that, someone had commented saying that, oh, maybe the author isn't from the US. That's how some other places format dialogue. And so I was like, oh, and then I felt kind of guilty. So then I looked it up, but the author is American. And so I wasn't sure why it's formatted like that. And I know it's a really little thing, but it just drove me bonkers. It was just really hard for me to follow along. And I don't know if it was just because I was reading it on my Kindle, if I was reading a physical version, if that would be easier for my brain to read along, but I was just really struggling to follow along, and I just wasn't a big fan of that book. Alrighty, so that's everything I read in 2024. For 2025, I'm going to set my reading goal to 75 books, push myself a little bit more than what I read last year. I also just want to say that reading's meant to be enjoyable. It's meant to be for fun, and it doesn't matter if you read 500 books. It doesn't matter if you read 5 books. It doesn't matter if you read only 1 page last year. It's not a competition, and it doesn't matter if you read physical books or digital books or audiobooks. If you enjoy reading, you're a reader. And so I know with this time of year, everyone's posting how much they read and all the books that they read. Don't let it discourage you if you see that people read way more than you did, because at the end of the day, it's just supposed to be for fun. Anyways, thank you so much for watching today's video. I'm really excited for this year. I have a bunch of really fun videos planned for this channel, so really excited going forward. So let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books. What did you think about them? What were some of your favorite books that you read in 2024? And make sure you subscribe to the channel. I post videos twice a month, and I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Happy New Year!